compare them to big Labrador retrievers, and I guess that can be true in some ways, but I just think they're just Friesians, and that's just how they are. They're really magical.
Back to Europe. Günter Fröhlich owns a stud farm in Glimbach in Germany. As an expert and tireless fighter for the Friesians, today in Germany he is called the Friesian Guru. Since the 70s, he has greatly contributed to the fact that Friesians are nowadays again so widespread.
So, das ist ein feines Leckerchen, ne? Prima.
I saw the Friesian horses for the first time in 1977 in Kecskemét in Hungary. Tjard Felstra, a multiple world champion, made his entrance with a four in hand, and I will never forget the sight. 4 black bouncing balls appeared, perfectly in step and almost in slow motion. A murmur spread around the whole arena. The stadium literally reverberated at the sight of such beauty. And I thought to myself, my God, such powerful hindquarters, the swelled breast, the neck. Yes, they look like real horses, but pace as if they have springs under their hooves. Very elastic. And I wondered what kind of horses these were. Eventually, I learned that they were from Friesland. And 2 days after we returned from Kecskemét, I was in Holland, in Friesland in the north, and bought the first horses. I've always committed myself towards retrieving and conserving the knowledge that the old Friesian farmers had. And I didn't do it for the association, just for the Friesian horse itself. From then on, they experienced a renaissance. And from the 50 to 100 Friesians that existed in Germany in 1977, we now have a population of more than 12,000. And next to the Dutch, we are the second largest Friesian breeding country in the world. To be honest, I'm very proud that I was able to do something positive from a cultural point of view. At that time, genetic defects had emerged from inbreeding. The foals needed longer to stand up. Often loose kneecaps were observed, which only stabilized when the horses had grown up. And then they found a method of detecting the inbreed quota. And now it works. We have more and more stallions. The pairings have increasingly diverged so that the inbreed rate is now very, very small, practically non-existent. Thus, we freed ourselves from inbreeding without taking blood from other breeds, which I personally feel is very important. In the meantime, we also have the Arabo-Friesian, where Arabs were crossbred with Friesians. This is neither an Arab nor a Friesian. It's simply something different. I think because we have so many different breeds of horses in the world, we should try to preserve this piece of our cultural heritage. In 1977, Günter Fröhlich presented Friesian horses for the first time at the largest horse fair in the world, the Equitana. Later, with his shows, Zauberbaum, Enchanted Tree, and Zoberwald, Enchanted Forest, he introduced the dream horses to a greater public. The market has opened up because the Friesian is now a recognized riding horse. The coach horse only has a limited clientele. And because we popularized the horse as a riding, hobby, and show horse, and to a small extent as a sport horse, everything exploded. Gunther Fröhlich is particularly dedicated to the prevention of overbreeding in Friesians. You shouldn't forget that the mass market is the average guy, and the average guy is looking for a companion, a friend, and for a hobby, a horse that he can handle in all situations. What's the point of owning a horse that spooks at the drop of a pin, or is so high-strung that you are afraid for your kids? Practically anything can happen. I think that's the strength of the Friesian horse. It's a family horse. Due to their quiet and friendly disposition, the Friesians at the hotel, Friesland Stern, have found a home and have become the patient and loving friends of the children. An everyday horse's life in East Frisia, far away from the glamorous, glittering shows.
At the end of the road, I can see you in the clear blue sky. I can tell you things that I never ever told you. You can see through my lies, so I won't even try. When I go home, I wanna come back to you. So when I hear you coming, you'll be hearing it too. When I walk alone, I'll be thinking of you. And when I'm on the phone, I'll be texting you.
This is Hilger. He's an absolute sweetheart and is so calm, a real smoocher. He loves to cuddle with anyone, a real cutie. And he's totally quiet to ride because although Friesians have a very frisky trot, his is nevertheless very comfortable.
Bei Friesen gehen wir einen sehr schwungvollen Trab, weil seiner ist halt dabei total bequem. Okay, ich habe hier Rika.
This is Rika. She is really elegant with her beautiful coat. And she's also an elegant ride. She has a wonderful trot and a beautiful pace with a very soft canter. Oh yes, she is really my favorite horse because we share the same name and because she is so endearing. And Tina has a particularly beautiful trot. She lifts her legs really high. Tina is honestly my absolute favorite Friesian. It is strange. When she canters, it feels oddly slow. And on the other hand, when she trots, it's so quick.
But you have to know that the Friesian has totally different PAT values, pulse, breathing, temperature. This is primeval and has been inbred for centuries. And the horse has to regenerate regularly. You can't just let it canter until it pants from exhaustion, as you do with the thoroughbreds and warm bloods. After a canter, you have to take it a little easier and begin again with the trot and pace and train in intervals. And this way, the Friesian also increases its performance. You should only put demands on him when the necessary muscular strength is there. People shouldn't forget that. And then when he is ready of his own accord, when he has the strength, then you will get a good performance. As far as the work itself is concerned, you have to get used to a different gait, a little more softly and loosely than on some warm bloods. Because the old ancient genes still exist in breeding, you will find a less sensitive or tender skin than a hotter-blooded horse. Many people make the mistake of giving too many impulses. They press and squeeze and slap the horse, Friesians won't tolerate this. You have to give short impulses. Tell him go like this. Go, to drive him onward, and so that the horse is also having fun. And when you have developed this special feeling for the Friesian, he will do anything for you. But you shouldn't pressure him. Then he'll close up shop, and nothing will happen at all. Of course, people think that the Friesian plays no role in equestrian sport, but we manage to do it. Naturally, among hundreds of Friesians, there may be 5 or 10 that can expand their capacities in such a way to deliver the performance needed. But it also depends on the person. You have to have people who are willing to invest the effort, the work, and gain the special knowledge of this horse. Karen Schnorr, 3-time German champion equestrian with a handicap, also invested a great deal of hard work and sweat with success. This teacher for mathematics and art began 11 years ago with tournament sport, and since then has continually progressed through diligence and determination. For the last 5 years, she and her training horse, the gelding and Ova's Merlin, have formed a perfect team.
When I hear me coming, you'll be hearing it too. When I walk alone, I'll be thinking of you. And when I'm on the phone, I'll be texting you. I can see you in my dreams. I can still hear you when I'm fast asleep. So come to me, by all means, my love for you I will keep.
Well, I always say Merlin is a striver. Yes, he's a geek, but he also has a bad day now and again. He learns really quickly, and when he is allowed, he wants to do things perfectly and goes a little over the top. For instance, with the flying change, he always wants to do it, although it's not on the schedule yet. So he really loves to show what he can do, but then he gets a little too frisky. I really must admit, the biggest thrill was when I won my first M dressage, because so many judges, so many trainers had told me with a Friesian in the dressage, that's impossible. And when he won outright against such very good, normal, warm blood horses, Hanoverians, Oldenburgs. Okay, the Friesian is also a warm blood, but to win against normal warm bloods and against really very good riders. And of course, the first German championship we won for the handicapped, that was also really amazing. Unbelievable. Fantastic. He was in such good form. But to win against the regular equestrians, that was a little bit more valuable for me. I think that if one takes part in a tournament with a Friesian against normal tournament horses, you have to make sure that everything runs 100% at home in training. The judges take a closer look when a Friesian turns up, and if he makes mistakes, they score the mistakes, more or less doubly. If he performs really well and shows it, then they say, wow, that's okay, we can include him in the placings. But you have to consider that the judges keep a special eye on the Friesian horse because he simply stands out in the crowd.
Gert Kelterborn also performs quite remarkable feats in Wangerland. He drives a historic carriage drawn by 7 Friesians. It's like going back in time when the carriage rolls along the East Frisia country lanes. Gunter Freulich has designed a modern version of the traditional carriage, and in particular, the typical Friesian chaise, the X-chaise. And then I developed this special something, the X-chaise. Well, really, I was co-developer. I'm not an engineer, but I have my own ideas, and I produced a coach for the first time that doesn't burden the horse's back, where the horse doesn't have to bear a weight, where a tight shaft doesn't stress them or the traction rope pinch them. A well-trained dressage horse would flinch at the thought, but this is quite the opposite. A very, very wide shaft where the ropes run more or less through the tubes. That way one can do good dressage work, even in the curves. Here one can clearly see how a horse can bend and flex. With a combination of new suspension systems and individually adjustable lateral shafts, the horse enjoys a new freedom and ease during riding, even cross-country. And cross-country, always in the direction of the sea, we ride with the Friesians from Hotel Friesland Stern. The guests enjoy the rare opportunity of riding through the Friesian fens or cantering on the beach through the sea. But the high prancing knee movement, the physique and attitude predestinate the Friesians for even more. They are Baroque horses par excellence.
I saw a black horse at a circus one day and didn't recognize the breed. And a short while later, I was at a fair where I saw exactly the same horse again and learned they were Friesian horses. It was a short time after that when I bought my first Friesian stallion and signed up for riding lessons, only as a hobby. Immediately, though, I noticed that the Friesian didn't like the way I was riding him and thought there must be an easier, more compatible way. So I started hunting around, and I wondered, what alternatives did I have? Western riding was out of the question for Friesians. So I asked around in the Spanish scene and met a Spanish riding master. He was giving lessons at the time in the south of Germany. So I traveled down there and observed him for a couple of days and thought to myself, now that's the way to ride a Friesian. That's really possible. And then I began my training.
Monika Amelsberg has been devoted to Friesians for 18 years. She turned her hobby into a profession and founded a school for classical Iberian horsemanship, which she still manages today.
Yes, the Friesian doesn't like being manhandled too much. He needs a lot of freedom up front, a sensitive hand. And if you ride a Friesian with lots of force, then that's just really, really hard work. Therefore, in order to get the horse to do what you want, it takes instinct and coordination rather than sheer force. You know, the Iberian way of riding is characterized by the fact that they try to ride horses with a light hand, with lots of leg, mainly with the lower legs rather than with the small of the back. And the method of giving guidance is sometimes slightly different. And that does a Friesian a lot of good, from my point of view anyway.
One course participant, who rode Hanoverians for decades, is of the opinion that many characteristics pre-qualify Friesians for the Baroque style of horseback riding.
Das ganze Exterieur ist eben.
The whole exterior of the animal is more powerful, much more muscular. With the Hanoverians, you really have to actively ride them in order to establish something similar, something that simply belongs to the Friesian nature. Riding is much easier. A Friesian innately has an uphill tendency. We must in their early years train them to keep the head lower. Their natural instinct is to keep the head high, because it's literally inbred. They bring it with them. You have a whole lot of horse in front of you, a large presence. And that's a feeling, well, I can't describe it. That's the way it is. I always imagined riding to be that way. That is riding for me.
Das ist für mich Reiten.
How authentically Friesians actually move within a Baroque ambience can be seen from Monica Amelsberg, Gerald Specker, and Andrea Schmitz on a journey through yesteryear.